Today's guest is Ross Foster, who's a mortgage advisor with Arrow Home Loans. Let me start by telling you a little bit about Ross. I first met Ross when I was pretty new in the business. He was introduced to me by another more seasoned agent, and honestly, we immediately hit it off. Ross takes incredible care of all of his clients, and I know if I refer somebody to him that's looking for a home loan or looking to, start thinking about buying a home, like Ross is going to take care of them. He sits down, does these like very, not long, but like 30-minute to hour Zoom calls with people, just really making sure they understand the ins and outs of what it means to apply for a home loan. I know when I send somebody to Ross that they're going to be taken care of, and he's going to help them and give them excellent service, which just matters so much in this industry. So today I'm really excited to introduce Ross. Ross, thank you so much for agreeing to do this today. So for those of you that don't know, this is first time ever doing this. So really for both of us. So
I'm happy to be here.
yeah.
Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, absolutely. As I mentioned, Ross is a mortgage advisor with Arrow Home Loans. But before we get into like the heavy hitting real estate questions,
Sure.
I need to ask about these shoes.
Yes, of course. I was in LA last week. I went to the Undefeated boutique downtown before we went to the Dodger game.
Like downtown LA.
Correct. And these hadn't come out yet. I was very excited. And my wife was laughing because I walked in and there's like these young guys in there, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, do you have these? And they're like, yep. And I was like, cool, I'll take them. I could have, if it was just me, I would have been in and out in like 30 seconds.
Right.
But we had to look around for another hour for my wife to find something.
I was going to say, did Finn get anything, or is this
No,
just?
he got a hat.
Okay.
He got a Dodger hat for the game, so everybody got a little something.
Okay,
Yeah.
you got the big something. Then.
That's right. That's
Okay.
right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I digress. Anyway, so I'm going to ask you some questions.
Yeah,
So,
fire away.
what's the number one question you get asked?
Well, everybody asks about interest rates, always, right? They probably ask you that too, I would think.
Number one.
So socially, when I try not to talk about work when I'm hanging out, but when people find out what I do, they always ask about rates, and it's usually some like, what are rates doing right now question.
Yeah.
And it's a leading question because they know they're higher. And it's sort of tinged usually with like, your job is probably tough right now, right? I'm like, yeah, we've had better years. And so I try to give them some context. Everybody knows rates are higher, maybe higher than they'd like them to be.
Right.
But are they really high?
Like, no,
That's
historically,
kind of
no.
Yeah, like when I did my first house, or bought my first house with my wife back in the mid 2000s, rates were where they are right now or a little bit higher.
Yeah.
I'm not that old. I'm not getting any younger.
No, my
but
parents
like,
talk about in the 80s. It
Yeah.
was like 18% or something.
So I try to give them some context that like if you look back since they've recorded data from like the 60s or whatever until now, average mortgage rates in like the mid 8s. And so we're lower than that, so historically low, higher than all-time lows though, which is what we all remember from 4 or 5 years ago. So try to give some of that perspective around, are rates really bad? And then I usually try to give them a tidbit around like, and does that mean it's a bad time to buy a house? And the answer is probably no, that it's not a bad time to buy a house. That if you think low rates mean it's a good time to buy a home, then you should have been around in 2020 and 2021 trying to buy a $500,000 house in Portland where it's basically impossible.
Right.
So
Everyone is getting outbid.
It's not a good time to buy a home if you can't even buy one.
Yeah.
So, it didn't matter what the rate was. If you can't do a loan because you can't buy a house, then it doesn't really matter. And
Exactly.
so there's a lot more, I think, opportunity in many ways now than there was, in large part because of what interest rates are doing.
Yeah,
So
I would agree. It's really like, it's the serious people that are in the market right now that like seriously want a home, not just, the
Exactly.
chaos of 2021.
And you bring that up. So it's like social settings, people aren't buying a house. They ask about rates and I have that conversation. The people that come to me to get pre-approved, they're not asking about rates because they already know.
Right.
So they've already decided that they're ready regardless of the rate environment and they're coming to me anyways. And so it's not a surprise for them anymore, right?
Yeah.
Like it just is what it is. And we're going to go about our business to help them buy because they're ready to buy.
Yeah, so it's like we're in 2025. Are you seeing kind of an uptick in that? Like people are finally ready to let go of the lock-in effect of the rates? Or...
Yeah, the lock-in
Also, this
effect.
question was not on the list. I apologize.
That's fine. The lock-in effect, I don't know if I'm seeing that let go. Maybe a little.
Yeah, still not like we
I think I'm busier than I was this time last year or the year prior. And I think you are too.
Yeah.
I think people can only wait so long. So if you're...
Life happens.
Yeah, and there's always going to be reasons why you need to buy or move. And those reasons don't stop because the rate environment's less advantageous. And then I also think a lot of people who thought rates were going to be better because somebody told them that 4
Yeah,
years ago, 3 years ago,
They're
2
gonna
years
get
ago.
better. They'll be in the fives again.
They're not.
Yeah.
And so you can only wait so long, and home values aren't plummeting.
No.
So at some point you're like, we got to buy.
Right.
And I think you can make a good argument that this still may be the cheapest time to buy a home than it will be in the next like 10 years.
Yeah.
Because
Forever.
if rates move down, property values are going to shoot back up.
Right.
So I think there is an uptick in activity, a lot more buyers out there, I think, seriously looking around, especially in a period of time where we're just now sort of entering spring. But and through the winter months when we're usually slower, I've been busier than I have been, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so here's one. What's a common myth about home loans or lenders you'd love to debunk once and for all? There's probably a lot of them.
There's a lot. I think probably the top one is that we sort of all do the same thing, or that it's like a commodity. And that's mostly our fault, I think, because all we ever do marketing wise is talk about interest rates,
Right.
which makes it seem like a commodity.
Right.
Whoever has the lowest rate, that's not even that simple, as you know.
Right.
But the service component of it gets really undervalued. So we
Gosh,
don't.
I could say the same thing about real estate agents. Like, it's so similar. Yeah.
That's exactly
Sorry
right.
to interrupt.
So the person that you work with matters more than I think almost anybody gives it credit for.
Yeah.
So how are we? The information that we're giving you, is it right or wrong? I mean, you'd hope it's always right, but as you know, of course it's not.
necessarily, right.
And how relevant and competent is the person that you're working with? You're a realtor and somebody else is a realtor, and they sell one house every 18 months, and you sell however many houses you sell every single month. You do the same job, but you don't do the same job. Right?
Right.
And so, the person that you work with matters, and the advice that you're getting around how to set your loan up for you in the context of your sort of greater financial picture, the availability of that person for you down the road. Everybody wants to talk about, well, when can I refinance? Well, in large part, that depends on who you do your loan with, and do they stay active with you 2 or 3 years from now, or whatever the time frame
Right.
is. Refinances are opportunistic, so the right day to lock in a rate can make all the difference.
Yeah.
And that can matter a lot more than which lender was priced a little bit better or worse. The right day can matter more than that.
God, especially with I work on new construction, and if you not all lenders understand new construction, and the date of closing is a little bit fluid until, because builders are relying on a lot of things. So if you lock in that rate too early, the builder's not paying for an interest rate lock extension.
No. And so this is advice and expectation setting, and helping, I think, from the financing perspective, give people a good idea of how they should set it up for themselves, and to not put you in a bad place either.
Totally.
So, especially with new construction, but some of these transactions, if we're doing our job well, it can make all the difference, and it can save thousands of dollars, right? And how we might negotiate or do this or that, versus I shopped one lender against another and I saved $50.
Yep. It's totally the wrong way to do it. It almost lends me to my question about, you have a story where another lender dropped the ball and you were able to step in and save the deal.
So many stories, Shannon.
We could be here all day.
There's the cough. I have a couple of stories, but the one that's most recent, a friend of mine reached out to me. She had a young, she was like 20 years old. That was making me feel old. Just buying her first house.
That's impressive, by the way.
It was. Yeah,
Okay.
she was very, people that are buying homes when they're 20 are
seriously
organized.
motivated,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. She was already under contract with like a sub 30-day close. I had not spoken to her yet, and the loan didn't work with the other lender. And she was really upset. Very type A, as you might imagine if you're buying a house when you're still a kid.
Yeah.
And she was like in tears when I first talked to her. And friends like, hey, can you talk to her? Do you think there's anything you can do? And the answer was yes, there's a bunch of stuff that we could do. And it was a little bit about the loan, but it was mostly about problem solving how the transaction was set up in the first place, right? So we actually moved a purchase price up. We took that back in a credit. We bought a lower interest rate. We did all these things. It got the payment where she needed it to go. It worked. She closed on time. She was very happy. And this was all about us, Aaron and I, who you know, Aaron, having enough experience and hopefully expertise to sort of put it together in the way that would work. It was a lot more about that than it was about a loan. She was doing a conventional loan with the other lender, and she did a conventional loan with us. It's about how we put it together that made it work.
And it's when I introduced you, I talk about how you do these really thorough sit downs with people when you kind of first do like a buyer intake or sit down. And part of it's getting to the bottom of like what matters. Is it the monthly payment? Is it the cash to close? Is it the is it their timeline? And if somebody doesn't do that due diligence up front, they're potentially failing for somebody.
Yeah. I mean, it just wasn't going to work. She was going to not get a house or get a house. And so, that, as you mentioned, those meetings that we have matter a lot for a whole bunch of different reasons. Finding out what's important to people is part of it. It's about setting proper expectations. And I think about it mostly as de-stressing the transaction for everybody involved. So for them, for us, for you, the better we set the table up front, the less likely we are to be surprised. Oh, I didn't know there were going to be these closing costs. Well, we should probably talk about it. Like we don't really ever have.
Not be a surprise.
But it is all the time.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah,
or I didn't think the payment would be that high. Or I didn't know this or didn't know that. If we meet and we talk about it
because no offense, if they're like Rocket Mortgage online, like again, no offense to Rocket Mortgage, but they're probably not getting advice from somebody. It's just someone out there.
The quality and quantity of information is really different depending on who you talk to.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to give people everything they need to know so that they don't bump into something that makes them feel stressed or out of control later. And we find that I think most lenders would tell you they don't have time to do that, right? I don't have time to meet. And I would argue that you don't have time not to. All the time that we save later on because we do this up front. Yeah. I also happen to care. Yeah. Like I actually care. Yeah. So when somebody's upset at me later, I don't like, I'm going to sleep over. Yeah. I don't go home and just forget about it. Yeah. I don't want that for me. Yeah. So we try to give everybody good information. With that then puts you in a better spot. I think people are more ready to buy. They go under contract sooner probably on average, although that's not really the point.
Or at least you just know it's going to go smoother. It's going to close.
Right. Yeah. And so I think we take for granted sometimes how non-dramatic our job is for like extended periods of time. Yeah. That's not really normal.
Right. Because things can go really, really wrong if they're not well managed.
Right. It's actually shocking that things don't go more wrong more often. Yeah. Given all the moving parts in the transaction. Totally. Right.
What's the biggest piece of advice you give to somebody right now who's considering buying a home?
Yeah. I think not everything is universal, but one thing that I think is universal is get pre-approved as early as possible. Yeah. So it can never be too early, but it can absolutely be too late. Okay. So if you think there's any chance you might buy a home this year, you should already be pre-approved. Okay. If you are sure you're going to buy a home next year, it might not be a bad idea to get pre-approved now.
So then the question I always get with that, or people's hesitancy, is like, is that going to be a credit pull? Is that going to be a ding on my credit? They always worry about how that might affect their credit. So.
Yeah. A couple pieces about credit. One, we do soft credit inquiries now for pre-approval. So we only get 2 of the 3 scores. You don't get a hard inquiry. So you don't have to worry as much about that. Second piece is hard inquiries are also, I think, overblown. Mm-hmm. I've been pulling credit for 25 years now or whatever. I've never, ever talked to anyone whose credit was bad because of credit inquiries. Okay. Your credit's bad because you don't pay anybody back. Yeah. That's why it's bad. It's not because somebody pulled your credit. And you work hard to have good credit for all these years so that when it's time to buy a home, you can use it to your advantage. Right. But we don't have to do a hard inquiry. The point is about the reason why I think it can't be too early to get pre-approved is it doesn't cost you anything. Yeah. We don't charge an application fee. It costs you the time to do it, which is maybe a half hour, and one soft credit inquiry. Yeah. And what you get in return, though, is potentially a whole bunch of value that might save you thousands and thousands of dollars. Because if we work on it early, knowing that you're not ready. One, I don't do any pressure on people to buy a home, and I know you don't either. Yeah. Pre-approval is about getting prepared. It's not about now the clock's ticking that I have to do something. Right. But when we have a longer runway, there's a lot of stuff we can do
to like improve the credit
because we uncover things in the pre-approval process. Yeah, your credit isn't optimized. I'm trying to be as nice as I can. You don't have great credit. If we have time, there's stuff we can do about it. Mm-hmm. If I run it on Saturday night to write an offer on Saturday night, there's no time for us to do anything about it. Right? Or right now, even this time of year, especially tax returns. If you're self-employed, have you filed your taxes yet? If you haven't, there's all kinds of strategy there around how to put those together. But we might find out that your income doesn't work the way that we thought it would. We might find out that taking somebody on or off the application might be better. That might be news to you.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of stuff that if we have more time, we can do.
You can solve for it.
That can be the difference between buying a home or not buying a home.
Yeah.
It can be the difference between getting a way better rate than you would have otherwise. It can save you tons of money. So you can't do it too early. And the quick like turnaround on a weekend is a fact of life. The story I just told you was that. Right. You can't always get away from that, but it should be, whenever possible, it should be avoided.
Right. So that then it leads. So the quick turn on the weekend is me saying, "Hey, we found it. We need a pre-approval letter at this price," not trying to do the whole thing to get pre-approved in time to hit some Monday at 5 deadline or something.
Right.
So,
When done well, that's what it looks like. We've already met.
yeah.
We've already sort of optimized the situation. We already know what we can afford. We've already talked about closing costs and mortgage insurance and property taxes and monthly payment expectations.
Yeah.
We've already talked about all this stuff. Then that quick turnaround on Saturday is, here's what I think a payment's going to be. Here's what I think closing costs are going to be. And the upfront expense will be, here's your pre-approval letter.
Or here's maybe we can get an appraisal waiver.
Exactly.
Or maybe like things that help us be more competitive.
Yeah, all this little loan officering stuff we try to do to be intentional about it. That's easy, though.
Yeah.
That's just the job. We turn that around quickly, and we're out there being competitive in a marketplace that is becoming more competitive again, as you know, and helping people get under contract without a bunch of unanswered questions or weird feelings or am I really ready or any of that kind of stuff.
Okay, so I have one last bonus question for you. What's the biggest mistake you see high earning buyers make in the mortgage process?
Let's talk trash about rich people.
Okay. It's totally on brand right now.
Yeah, it's a good thing I'm not one of them, so I can say whatever I want. So it's hard to put them all together in a group. Some of I have the opportunity, as I know you do, to work with some high, earning people and some people with resources, and that's great. And some of them are the nicest, most humble, most down to earth people you could ever possibly work with. And some of them aren't, just like people who make less money, right?
That's true.
I think what you run into sometimes is when you get to a certain stage in life, and sometimes you're a business owner or like an executive or whatever, you've told everybody else what to do for a long time now.
Yeah, and
right?
now they have to listen to you.
Yeah, and they're like, who is this guy with the sneakers on? Like telling me I need this or whatever. I get it.
Yeah.
But you can have $30 million in the bank or $100 million in the bank and not qualify for a loan.
Yeah.
You absolutely
wild,
can.
by the way.
Right. But I didn't make these rules.
Right.
Right. Write your congressman or whatever. But these rules are what they are. So I would argue if you have 100 million, what do you need me for? Right. Just go buy the house.
Totally.
But often there's reasons why they want to borrow the money or whatever. And so then what you can get occasionally is we're in the loan process, and doing a mortgage is not the funnest thing to do in the world.
No, it's so much paperwork. And especially if you're doing like a jumbo loan, it's like,
it can be
it's
annoying.
An assault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we try to minimize that as much as we possibly can, but there's stuff, right? There's hoops to jump through. And sometimes these folks resent that. And they're also, it's not logical. And so they're in a world of, they've worked their way up out of the bureaucracy often, and they're into like the higher level decision-making process where things are sort of simpler. Like we need to go do this or this or this. The details and all the stuff around that's like somebody else's job.
Yeah.
I'm still in the detail world.
Yeah.
And
it's
you
required.
don't get to dictate to us how you borrow money from us.
Yeah.
Right? The rules are what they are, and they're arbitrary, and sometimes they don't make sense. And I will be the first person to agree with you on that. But they are what they are. So if you want to do the loan, you got to play ball.
Yeah.
So taking yourself out of I'm in charge mode into I'm going to be cooperative and I'm going to understand that this guy's been doing this for 20 years now and he wouldn't ask if he didn't need it or whatever. That can really go a long way.
Yeah.
And so you see that every once in a while, not all the time, but occasionally.
That's awesome. That was really all of my questions. I don't know if you have any.
Don't you want to ask me about why it's so wonderful to work with you?
I guess I can.
I'm going to make you ask, though.
Do you even like working with me? What is working with me like? Would you ever use me as a real estate agent?
I would. So there's, you're great. And there's a couple of reasons why you're great that are, I work with lots of realtors. I have to. But
you really do.
I do. Yeah, I do. But there's things that are unique to you of why you do such a good job. And I think a couple of them are one, and I hope you're okay with me bringing this up, but you
No,
have had a successful career before you worked in real estate.
Yeah.
And most people in real estate have not had that. And so I think I've also done other things. I think the competency and professionalism that you brought from your previous career matters. Learning, growing up in your career in real estate can be really hit or miss. Who you find yourself around by chance can turn you into something that's great and can turn you into something else.
Yeah.
Right. And so you bring a certain, again, kind of like poise and competency and professionalism that a lot of real estate agents don't have, for sure. And that's different and unique, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You'd hope they'd all have it, but of course they don't. Somebody has to be the worst brain surgeon in the world, right? Like we think sometimes that all these people are great. It is, right? But C's got degrees for somebody in med school, right? With the brain surgery.
Oh my gosh, that's really frightening.
It is,
yeah.
But it's also scary in real estate, right? How do you know a lot of people are in these giant transactions?
Time in the business doesn't always lead to expertise.
No.
Even quantity of transactions does not always mean it's a wild industry.
There's no rule that you can't be bad at something for 25 years in a row.
Right.
You absolutely can. So there's that you bring, but also the thing that I appreciate too is you're actually reasonable.
Thank you. I'd like to tell that to my husband, Joel.
I will tell it to him when he comes back down. But I think because you've done other things, because you have sort of, I think, a bigger thought process around it than just being inside each transaction, we never have any there's never any static really. There's never any weirdness around anything. You know that we're doing our job to the best of our ability. We know that you are. We know that there's bumps in the road.
Right.
And
that we're going to figure them out.
Problem
solvers.
Right.
That's what we do.
And that stuff takes time.
Every problem solvable.
Yeah. It might take 24 hours or it might be until tomorrow morning or whatever else. These are reasonable things that professionals understand that sometimes people who are less reasonable don't understand. And we bump into less than reasonable circumstances with some regularity in this business, as I'm sure you do.
Well, it's an emotional, buying a home is an emotional thing. It's large amounts of money. It's the place that you live. So, I'm a therapist sometimes.
Absolutely. Me too.
As are you.
Yeah, we talk about our feelings a lot on a lot of these calls.
Yeah, a lot of tears.
Yeah.
A lot of happiness. A lot of sadness.
Exactly. So, those are the things that I appreciate about you.
Well,
and of course, I'd work with you as a realtor, mostly for Joel, but for you too.
So when are we going to get you a new house? No, I'm just kidding.
Right now?
Sidebar, Ross, I did use Ross when Joel and I bought a house in Welch's a year and a half ago and talk about problem solving. We go look at this house and by looking at it, I realized it's immediately not financeable. The outside is just a wreck. And so I call Ross, I'm like, how do we make this work? And he figures out this home style renovation loan and we did it. We bought the house. We had it renovated. It's a whole other thing for another day, another podcast. But again, I went to you. You're the person I trust. You've literally helped me figure it out from start to finish. And we got a house that we would have otherwise never been able to get. So I'm
getting a lot of credit for a bunch of work Erin did there, which I maybe don't
Take
deserve.
Take the credit.
She was great. But yeah, it was, it kind of wasn't even quite a house. I think it was missing one whole side, right?
Back side of the house, and then the bathroom had no interior walls. It was to the studs already, and the person living there was putting their shampoo bottles and soap
on the wood there.
Studs, the wood. There was no sink in the bathroom.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure how hands were being washed.
Yeah.
But there was no sink.
Yeah, Purell. I think they. That was a cool project. Obviously, it's a beautiful place now, and we were excited
we need to have you up
to
there
be a part
still.
of it. I would love to.
So
I would love to.
Thank you again so much for doing
Anytime.
this. This was so fun.
Same time tomorrow?
You're the best. Same time tomorrow. I don't think I have enough outfits to do this every day, but no, but really, thank you. You're the best.
No, I feel the same. Appreciate the chance to be here.
Awesome. And I'm Shannon Janssen, real estate agent here in Portland, Oregon. Please be sure to click subscribe on my YouTube channel or come follow me on Instagram.